Good day, everyone. Welcome to another podcast edition. My name is T.A.A. Ajayi, and I have a wonderful guest. I mean, I will not introduce himself. I will not jump and pass myself, but he's a wonderful guest. Please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do. Yeah, I think we can start from there.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on this show. My name is Israel Adedayo, and I currently work as the People and Culture Manager at Apex Network. Yeah, so I think that's just basically all about me right now.
You are happily married. You are. You
well,
know what?
well, well, well.
All right. So let's talk a bit about you. I mean, people, management, and culture. You guys we commonly know you guys as HRs, but I mean, but really, what was your journey like into people management or human resource management? What was the journey like? What's prompted you? How did you get into this space?
All right. Well, right from when I was in EXU, that's a state university. For those who don't know what EXU means, that's right from my undergraduate days. I have had passion for something that's to do with people management, administration. Right, it has been something that I loved doing, and but then I didn't realize that there's a path called human resource management. Right, all I knew was that I just loved administration. I want to deal with people. I want to make administrative matters seamless. That was just all I wanted to do. Well, going to EXO, completed my course there. But later on during my NYC, I began to figure out that there's something that I can do. There's something called human resources, right? Human resources that has to do with people management, right? I'll be able to handle people, handle strategic matters in the corporate world. So this led me to my interest in that area. I started with running internship. Then I started of course, the internship was not paid. You will see with all the startup, right? I'm happy we'll be discussing that with startup today, right? So it wasn't a paid internship. But then I was so excited about it because it was an opportunity for me to grow in that area. And of course, I'll include it in my CV. I worked there. So it was a remote role with an aviation industry in Maharashtra, India, where I worked as an intern. It wasn't easy because um, they hired various interns from different parts of the world. We have a lot of Nigerians hired. So I don't even have my own state. I was the only Nigerian who sailed through the whole internship period. A lot of them were disqualified because they're not delivering, right? They're not meeting targets and all of the rest. So I was the only Nigerian qualified. I got the certificate of completion, which I included in my LinkedIn page. So it was just um, the idea I had from the internship experience, right? That I was able to push into my CV when I was applying for major roles after the internship. I was over now. Of course, I've done other freelance roles, but those ones were just to survive. We are here in Nigeria. You do freelance not necessarily because that's what you really want to do, but you just let me just do this thing to make some money to survive and the rest. So doing the freelance role, I've already pushed for major roles like at least HR assistant roles, and fortunately for me, uh, I landed a job in an oil servicing firm, which was my first corporate experience. It was as an HR admin. It was almost like a dream come true for me, saying that this is what I really wanted to do. The interview was seamless, not particularly seamless. Of course, questions were asked, but from the little idea I garnered during my internship days, I was able to speak to those questions, and of course, um, I was able to get the role. And it has, by God's grace, it has just been like that. Once you have the soft landing in the space, you start with improving yourself, improving your career. You go for professional courses, right? Get certified. Especially if you are someone that really wants to grow in this area, it's a professional path. So you can't just be an HR. You need to grow yourself, certification, furthering education, and all of those things. Have been able to expand my horizon about human resource field generally on how to be a better human resource person. So yes, let's say I develop myself, right, so I can get what I am actually envisaging. So this has been my journey towards this path, right? It has to do with constant learning, constant determination to improve, right? Making proper research, believing that there's more. That's just it.
Wow. Sounds like a lot. I mean, the whole process. I'm sure at some point it must have gotten really challenging. Sometimes if I've woken up and asked myself, why are you doing this thing, sir? But, but really, I mean, I think that's just, I think nothing worthwhile is gotten this. That being
Mhm.
said, what's your take in with young businesses? I mean, you manage people, you manage resources, human resources. So, what's your take on newly founded businesses who are still trying to navigate around the business space? I mean, you mentioned that you work with the big corporates, the big boys, but really, what about the small boys just starting? Now, what's really your take on startup businesses or startups in general?
Okay, so this question is very interesting. I mean, and this is because um, working in a startup is, I mean, it can only bring two convictions. And first is, hmm, this is the best decision I ever made. And the other one is, why did I do this to myself? Right? But I mean, but then the thing is that it depends solely on what stage the startup is, right? What stage they really are in, and your personality as a person. Of course, working in a startup has both their downside and they also have their good side, right? When it comes to working in a startup, of course, you know that if you are someone that loves to expand, you are just starting as an intern, just like I said, I mentioned about myself. You'll be interested in touching every area, right? Just like in my professional, sorry, in the human resource level now, right? We have talent acquisition specialists, or those who are in charge of talent acquisition. That's your recruitment, what you know as recruitment. We have people who are in charge of compensation and benefits, right? We have people who are in charge of learning and development. But you working in a startup, maybe an HR consulting startup, your interest will be in learning everything. You want to the zeal is there, you want to know how this one works, you know want to specialize initially. So working in a startup, you are able to grow ridiculously. You are able to wear many hats. In a startup, you will not be surprised when you see someone manning the position of an HR, and it's also the finance officer, and it's also the admin officer, right? So you wonder how, like, in fact, there are HR that are also doing project officers in the same company. So all of those things speaks to the the kind of company that he or she is working. I mean, this is usually common with startups, but of course, like I said, it's a good part in startup because you get to do different things. You get to stretch beyond your current phase, your current stage. Permit me, I was telling my sister sometimes ago because she is also an HR. She just started her journey in HR, and I was saying that where she's currently working, that she needs to do better. He says that she shouldn't be relaxed. She needs to learn different things, and this is the time for her to learn all of those things, right? Being um, at the initial phase of her career, right? So that's the benefit of working in a startup. You can decide to work in a startup if you want to really touch different aspects. But of course, if you're looking for stability, well, it still depends on you. I won't advise, but it depends on you. Also, in a startup, I know everybody's name. Startup, we might be just 10 in the organization.
Yeah.
I can tell this is Adi, this is Uju, this is Bola, this is Tokwe, this one is handling so so and so project. This one is, I can tell who you are. We know everyone in a startup, right? And uh, also in a startup, you're able to learn how to work under pressure. During interview, being an HR, we we ask people. I mean, people when they are trying to sell themselves, so why should we hire you? It's because I'm smart. I've handled this. I can work under pressure. When they say I can work under pressure, that thing just triggers something. We're like, do you know what it really means to work under pressure? Right? I understand that you want the role. So, but do you really know what it means to work under pressure? Right? I can multitask. Of course, multitasking is a skill, but can you really work under pressure? Of course, working in a startup, you'll be able to solve a lot of problems under pressure, right? I mean, you'll be able to develop your emotional states of work, emotional intelligence. You know when to stay calm. You know how to handle multiple things, right? Of course, you might also be privileged to make strategic decisions in organization, being a startup, right? So it's not like there are plenty. And also, there's also other advantage of working, or sorry, other advantages of working in a startup. One of which is there's place for growth, prospect in career, right? You starting there as maybe a customer service person, handling wearing the cap of an admin person in the company. As time goes on, as the company expands, there might be need to fill another role. Probably they need to fill um let me say a finance officer role in the company. And then you have been handling customer service and admin, but then you have been dealing with the invoice, be dealing with maybe some ticketing and the rest. You can be recommended for that role. And if that has been your area of interest, you can then develop your career. Right. I tell people when I interview them, especially during onboarding, I say that you are starting off as maybe, let's say maybe an account reconciliation officer does not mean that throughout your stay in the company you must be an account reconciliation officer. You starting there means that there's room for growth. You can become anything, right? I started off with Apex Network as the people and culture officer, right? And joining them after the people and culture officer, my direct boss is the head of people and operations, right? So it was like we were just myself and my direct boss. And as the company expands, there was need for growth and the rest. By God's grace, I was promoted, right, to the role of the people and culture. That role was not existing initially, but there was the need for that space to exist. So I was moved to that position, and then there was someone that we had to hire to take that my previous position, right? So I'm saying that in a startup, there's always opportunity for you to grow. You don't you starting in a particular role does not mean that you must end up in that particular role. It means that you can become anything. You can stretch to become anything you want to be in a startup, right? And also, to be honest, why they are good sides to start up, we have also the downside to start up, and one of them is that you get to the workload become very heavy. Trust me, your 9 to 5 might be 9 to 5. You will be working after you have worked your 9 to 5, you carry the work home to continue 6 to 12 or whatever, because you know that you have this project to deliver. You just have to, you know, and I mean you might burn out. You might really burn out. So the workload might be really pressed. So like I said, depends on the individual. Are you someone that really love it? Right? But for some people who are married, who would like to balance life and work, right? It might not be, but it depends on the company too they work in, right? Some company might be so strict with their 9 to 5, but why some they don't care. They just want you to produce results. So follow up, even in church, they follow up with you. Hello, where's this document? Um so of course the workload might be so burdensome. Another is that in most startup, in most startups, they don't have structure because a startup, they don't have HR to say they are building any policy for them. You work 6 months, there's somebody to confirm you. Salary payment might not come at when due. There's no particular structure to all those things. So these are some of the down parts to startups. And I think that's basically, but like I said, depends on the company and depends on you as an individual, what you really want to achieve working in a startup.
Amazing, amazing. In fact, this is really insightful. This is really insightful. It made me realize that I think a couple of, I think about a year ago, I figured out that all my career I've been working with startups. I mean, my first role ever was with a startup. The next one was with a startup. When I got the offer to work with an established business, I didn't take it. I wasn't impressed. I didn't like what they were doing there. I went for a startup. We are currently working also. It's a startup. And I can relate with a bunch of the things you are saying. I mean, we have work over the weekend. When you finish your 9 to 5, you still have work that is waiting for you. You have work over the weekend and you have stuff to complete. I also look at the place of policy. Sometimes there are some policies that you'd expect, except if it's a maybe really nice boss or you have like a really nice team lead that has probably experienced some of the things that you are about to experience. He's able to help you properly shape and manage all of these things. But if you don't have a good boss, it's a huge problem. Speaking on realities for what a startup is against what it's not. I know that many young persons are currently sourcing now and they're looking for a way of probably landing a job or landing a gig or something. And many persons
Mm.
are faced towards either I go into a startup or I go into a big business. Of course, many persons want to go into startups because they feel that they're able to do more, they're able to do better. But can we do a bit of reality check? I mean, what are the assumptions that some persons have for startups that is not true? And what are the assumptions in your own experience that people have for many of these big businesses that is not true? Can we do a bit of reality check for both of them?
Okay. So um people have different mentality when it comes to startup. Like, they believe that for this business to be startup, for a person to have um developed or grown this business or decided to boost this business, it means that the founder must be very rich, right? So people believe that founders of startup companies are really rich, right? They believe that they are like oil money. And if anyone takes this assumption into a place of work, into a startup, the person will be very shocked because many founders, when they even get money, any interest they get in their business, most times they push it into the business. Some businesses are built based on loan, right? Of course, some from fundraising, some from investors, right? But then it is wrong to assume that every startup, like for you, I'm working in a startup, it means that the founder is very rich. And that one is that some might be thinking that working in a startup, it means that I will not have so much work done because I mean it's just a small business, it's just growing, so there might be no much workload. What will I be doing? No, it's not just, but they'll be shocked by the time they give you offer of customer service and you're doing sales rep too. They give you offer of customer service, you are doing admin as well, right? So you'll be shocked at this reality. And so you can't assume that because it is a startup, so no much work there, right? And but of course, in every startup, what can actually help you to sail through is just you knowing what you want to do, discipline to push through is what you want to do, the resilience, right? The passion will also push you through, right? So that's just some of the little misconception people have about startup. And then startup is not a family. Don't say that it's a startup because we are friends, sharing secrets with people. You are taking people like, don't do that. No, 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 don't do that. A startup is a corporate place, it's a corporate space as well. So as much as everyone might be visible, you might know everyone's name. It is not a family, quote and unquote. Like it's not a family, right? And then because um because the founder of the company got funded to run his business by investors does not mean that that is success. You can't use that as metrics for success for a startup. If a funder invests in your business, it means that you can't even sit anymore because you know that there must be return of investment, right? So you cannot expect someone like uh, Dangote to just invest. People who go for a lot of investments programs and the rest, hoping to get at least to get investors. But the thing is that they are not mentally prepared for what it really entails. They just think that they'll just get money and get money from investment and that's all. No, when investors invest in your business, it means that they're expecting return of investment. There must be a time. What is it? 3 months ROI, 6 months ROI, 12 months ROI. You get so getting funded, that's the founder of the business got funded or your business being funded does not necessarily means that it is success. I think that's the little I can say about this assumption. Of course, everyone have their own assumptions about status, but I think those are just some of the assumptions I think I know that people take into startups.
Beautiful. I will speak on two things. But when you mentioned that startup is not a family, this is one big mistake I've seen. I know
Yeah.
someone that apparently what the boss preaches is that, oh, we are one big family. What the boss preaches is that we are one big family. But of course, when it's time to pay, there's a problem. When it's time to
Mhm,
get the job done, there's a problem. There are
mhm,
different kinds of problems. But then what they are preaching is we are one big family. So when someone wants to, say for example, leave the business, it now becomes a form of guilt tripping that, oh, you want to leave your family.
mhm,
Something like
mhm,
that. I think sometimes the environment can get really toxic, especially with the work that needs to be done. I think that's another aspect that I will probably speak on.
mhm,
There's just so much work sometimes, and it can get really toxic.
mhm,
Many persons are working in startups. The environment is not comfortable. I mean, there's always the management breathing on your head that, oh, you need to get this done, you need to get this done fast and quick and things like that. And whether you like it or not, you just have to keep pushing and pushing. But really, it can get to a point where you can't take it anymore. It has affected you mentally, it has affected you physically, and you just have to move on. I think it's another huge assumption that many people make. But really, what do you think is the major reason why many persons still have these experiences and they fail to speak up? Why do you think many persons still have this? You work in a startup, you experience all of these things, but you still fail to speak up. I mean, in your experience, what's it like?
So, uh, so I tell people that toxicity is relative, right? Your perspective to toxicity might be different from mine. But if you've ever been in a workspace where there is meeting, maybe meeting with the management, and everywhere is so quiet, and then they ask, any thoughts, any question? I mean, do you have contribution? And no one is talking. Everyone is just keeping mute. It's fine. Keeping mute there does not mean that everything is fine. It's just everyone is scared that they don't want to sound stupid. And what would have made them feel like if they say nonsense or if they say something that does not align, they might be sounding stupid. It must be from previous experiences, maybe in the space. It must have been from maybe being shut down. When you have contributed before and then your opinion is not is made of non-effect, like it doesn't matter. They don't want to be shut down before people, and they don't want to, let's say, contradict the boss. So when boss is saying that this is what we plan to do, we'll be doing this, we'll be doing this, any thoughts? Everyone just keep mute, just ride on, boss, it is your business, right? And this is or another reason is because um we have companies where we just have managers, right? We just have managers where the managers are the ones that get to um rebuke their subordinates, right? Nobody's reviewing the manager's performance. The management and the manager is just the one that is the alpha and the omega. Whereas there's a founder though. There's a founder, but then the manager is just like the one that presses the neck of everyone to produce results. Right. So what could make people mute? What could make people feel insecure in a workspace is when they feel like the environment is no longer safe psychologically, mentally to them anymore. I've worked in a toxic environment. I mean, this one I'll call it a toxic space before. And when I say working in a toxic space, it means that it's more like you are working on eggshell, right? You are so you are so scared. You want to speak. It's like you are whispering. When when I have friends or families going for interview, I tell them if it's an on-site interview, look around. When you get there, look at the environment. If you see the staff that they are not voicing out, they are whispering to speak.
Mm,
It is
mm,
saying something. It is really, really saying something. If you see that they can't move, they just have to sit down, and someone is shouting at someone, like maybe a boss is or line manager is shouting at colleague, you should know that no, that place it's a no-go area. So as much as they are I mean, you are there for them to watch you, interview you, you're also there to watch them to know if this is a kind of place that matches your interest, right? And uh, like I was saying about what area I've worked, uh, it's a place where you can't voice out, right? You can't voice out. The CEO is the one that handles. The CEO is the HR. The CEO is the finance manager. The CEO is the project manager. If so,
that,
when when people talk about toxic place, like I said, it's relative. Some will tell you because I cannot stand up from my seat. My boss does not allow me to stand up for too long in my seat. It's toxic. I don't like the way. I mean, people give claims. Of course, it is valid to them, right? Why a place should be toxic. But when we talk about toxicity, it's somewhere that drains you emotionally. It makes you feel lower than yourself. It makes you feel like they are doing you benefits by having you in the organization. That's what in my own perspective, that's what toxicity entails. Another way you can get to know a toxic place, especially for those who are job hunting. As much as you are job hunting, please don't just jump on any job you see. Don't just jump on any job offer you see. Like I said, I was talking about startup. I was saying that uh, getting a startup role it could be that I made the best decision, and it could also mean that my God, what have I got myself into, right? So don't be the later, right? Be that one that will say, I made the right decision, because if you are job hunting, take your time, right? Take your time. Um, while you are hoping to get your dream role, try to build yourself. Go for trainings, certification, learn new things that that can help you in the corporate space, right? Also, let me give you a scope. As an HR, this is something that will help you when you are looking for when you're job hunting. Many people don't know the power of LinkedIn anymore. When you are job hunting, maybe the company name is T and T and T and T, or I want to give a name that nobody will come and drag me that I'm calling their company's name. Uh, let me just use my name. So let's say um I&A groups, Israel Adedayo as I&A groups. Let's say you are looking to get a role with I&A groups, right? You've been invited for interview. The best thing you can do for yourself after you've made your research is to check their review. We have Glassdoor, we have Indeed. You can check the review of previous previous employee about the company. Of course, you get to see honest review because most times it's anonymous, so they can tell you what's happened there. Another one is then you can go check LinkedIn page, get to know previous staffs, those who have worked with them, get to know how long they've worked with them. If you are seeing that in a company, their staffs are not spending more than 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, the longest has spent 6 months or 1 year. Ha, my brother, run no. It means that there's an issue there, right? So you get to know that why are they actually leaving? Why are they not staying long in this space? It tells a lot. So I think I've said so much already on this topic, right? And but then, so this is a place where I mean, a place that drains you mentally, that drains you psychologically, that reduces your self worth, right? Where your voice is not heard. For me, that's what I call a toxic workspace.
Impressive. Impressive. I mean, I like how you broke it down, even from an HR perspective. I mean, I think I would say I once worked. Thinking back, I once worked somewhere that was toxic like this. I mean, where speaking up was not encouraged, where everyone was being spoken down to, and it just made me realize that, man. And the other thing you mentioned, that checking the LinkedIn. I mean, when I entered the organization, 1 month after somebody left, 2 months after another person left, 3 months after another person left, 5 months after another person left. When I was leaving, right, someone else was living with me, and two other people were
Can
planning to
you
leave. It
like
was
can you
crazy.
just imagine?
Honestly, honestly. What is your biggest advice as an HR? What's your biggest advice to startups? I mean, founders of these startups. I mean, what exactly? I mean, from an HR perspective, just be plain. If you're going to advise them one on one, face to face, what is one of the biggest problems you've seen them repeat over and over and over again? What would be your advice to them?
All right. So from an HR point of view, I'll say for startup, one thing that they need is they don't necessarily need plenty hands, right? They don't need, for startup, you don't need to hire more than you can you can bear. You don't need to hire more than you can pay, right? At the end of the day, compensation on its own does a lot to employee to keep their morale moving, right? When you hire a lot of people, even though it's a startup, and they even if they're enjoying their role, but then they are not well compensated, you get to lose them. Another one is, as much as it is a startup, it is good that there's structure, right? It is good that there's structure. Who reports to who? What is the policy saying about this, right? Um, it won't be good if the CEO, even though he has an HR, the CEO is the one handling interview, is one handling recruitment. Make sure that there is structure. There is also a culture in the organization. Make sure that there's a culture guiding how the organization is run, right? So I've spoken about hiring what you can bear. Spoke about existing culture. I've spoken about the place of existing policy in the organization. And then Um, as much as you are looking for investors, right? It is good that you understand that investors have what they are looking for. There's something we call return of investment, which they really believe that at the end of a particular timeline they are getting back. So you getting investors or reach or going to pitch your business means that you understand all of these things. You are willing to you have the mind space to stretch your business to meet all of these requirements you have already proposed to these investors along the line. Another thing is transparency. If you say that you are paying them this amount of money, if you say you're paying your staff this amount of money, right, ensure that it is what you said they are saying. Ensure that the staff understand what is going on in the organization. That's the place of transparency. You can't say that no, no, this one, no, 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 no. I'll tell you later, right? You are not even communicating to your HR, right? I read something on LinkedIn. The CEO was asking the HR that why are people leaving this company anyhow? Why is the attrition rate so high? The HR said it is because the CEO is not allowing the HR to handle his work. Right? I mean, that's what the HR said to the CEO rather, because the CEO is not allowing him or her to handle his work. Right? One major thing that is still uh, posing as a challenge even to big company, not necessarily startup, is communication. It is a major way to carry everyone along. It's a major way to ensure inclusivity in every organization. Communication. So in an organization where there's lag in communication, there's no way there won't be conflicts, right? So as much as everyone is interested in building a company, developing a company, right? It is good that I'm sure we have other reasons, right? But these are just few things that I believe should be in place or should be considered when building the startup. Yeah, and also when building a startup, it's very important that you have basic documentation, right? You start many a times there are key roles that should be in any startup. Like I don't know, but for me, I believe your HR is very important in any startup. It is very good you have an HR. It is very good you have a legal and compliance person as well. I mean, I feel those two roles are key because even when you are drafting template that you'll be using for um, future documentation, maybe for offer, for proposal, you know, letterhead, all of those things, why it can be drafted by the HR and it can also be be screened by the legal and compliance guys so that they can tell you that okay, oh, this is fine. You need to take this one out. This one does not align with labor law. This does not align with the constitution. You know, all of those things. So that at the end of the day, you are not breaching any form of labor law, industrial law, right? So I mean, so it's good you have basic documentation prepared, right? That have been vetted correctly. So I believe these are just few things that are very essential.
Interesting. Wow. Wow. I mean, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. All right. So down to my final question. I mean, personally, I've learned a lot. I've learned quite a lot. You know, addressing some matters. But there's this particular conversation that I want to take it from the perspective of an HR, and that is AI replacing human efforts or human labor?
Why do I feel like this question is to pose like is to yeah say, tell me yeah.
Right? Well,
So so this is the thing. AI is working to ensure um effectiveness, right? To ensure, I mean, AI on its own has a major space. It is filling at the moment, but then AI cannot. AI can just optimize human efforts. AI cannot necessarily absorb woman responsibility. It can't take over woman's space, right? Especially in any workspace. Like take for instance, of course, now trust me, these days we have tech companies who the AI handles their almost all their recruitment process from the initial screening of CV. Now we have ATS that screens CV out and brings in and move qualified CV to the next stage, right? We have AI that handles the first stage interview with candidates where like you will see the animation. Is it the cartoon? Let me use the word. I don't know. I know it's not cartoon anymore, but let me just use cartoons.
So, so,
you see, you will see this animation speaking with you. You get it like, my name is Zara, right? And this person, this thing we interview you, get to. I mean, the way it was programmed, right? So that's AI for you. AI on its own reduces the stress, but why people are saying one day AI will take over human race and everything, but who are the people that programmed the AI to divulge those questions? Who are the people that created the questions that are necessary for the AI to? I mean, sorry, what are the people that created the necessary prompts? Let me use the tech language now. Prompts for the AI to use during interviews with people, right? In the area of human resources, HR, I mean, AI cannot handle um emotional intelligence. AI can you can't say you want to, yeah, so people are having conflicts in the office, so you want to, yeah, AI, go and sort their problem, right? There's a place for empathy, there's a place for emotional intelligence. I'm sure AI is really doing great work, and very soon I'm sure they'll want to be going towards that area. But regardless, many of these prompting, where why AI is able to perform all of these functions is because humans are the brains behind the AI functions, or functionalities now. Humans are the ones that ensure that these promptings are going well. They are the ones that do the coding to ensure that this AI is doing something right. So I'll say that AI is not a replace to human efforts, but it is just um AI is just a tool to ensure efficiency or optimization. So it optimizes human efforts.
yeah. All right, all right, all right. I mean, this has been insightful. Honestly, it has been insightful. It's my first time speaking to an HR executive like this. I mean, I've never had this much detailed conversation in my life, and I mean, I'm getting lots of insights as to how you guys think. It's like you guys are wired differently. I used to think that you guys are this unbearable. Like, you're this unbearable set of people that we just have to deal with. I mean, but really, I think it's insightful. It's been insightful speaking with you, and I trust that there are lots of lessons learned, particularly for anyone that wants to go into the HR space or into the HR space, or that is probably job hunting right now, or even scared that HR is
Mm.
about to replace. I think I'm going to bring it back on the show, Mr. Israel. I'm definitely going to bring it
I'll,
so we can
I'll,
explore
I'll
it.
be really come. I'll have to come.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for your insights. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time. Do have a good day. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a privilege. It's been an honor.